everybody. Welcome to Crafting and Crime Daily, the show where I, your host, Rebecca, recap live trials. I am a former attorney, a former registered nurse. I mean, I still have those credentials. I just don't practice anymore. Either one, I'm retired. I was also a risk manager, and the risk manager plays a major role in one of the trials that we are covering currently. That's based on the Netflix documentary Take Care of Maya. If you haven't seen it, it's about 90 minutes of your life you will never get back. But it sort of sums up what this case is about, and and at the end you can see that they've been set for trial. They're getting ready to go to the trial, and then it gets continued at the last minute, which is what happens with these trials. So now, fast forward 16 months after this thing is real, they were set for trial the first time, and Netflix releases this documentary. Here comes the trial again. So this time the trial is on. They picked a jury. The jury is quite humorous. I'm going to tell you something they did that was hilarious. So everybody's kind of settling in for the long haul. The judge is he's over the irritation that he was showing earlier in the week last week, and now he's on to a lighter side. He's found the fun in all this, I guess you should say.
I think the jury wants to hear the question.
Okay. Mr. Anderson and Mr. Whitney, in the future, when assuming the role of different people, may you please use unique and different voices and project your voice out into the audience so we have a better experience. Wigs may also help. Signed by A Little Levity. I appreciate that. Now, let's turn.
And I guess they're probably all very, very tired. So it's how you get punchy when you get tired. I think that's what's going on here. So in the Kowalski case, they're now putting on the damages portion of the case. So this is all the uh, you know testimony from Jack Kowalski, Kyle Kowalski, and Maya Kowalski regarding damages. Like, how have they suffered as a result of their mother's death? Because one of the allegations is that Beata committed suicide because you drove her to it. You took her child away. John Hopkins, shame on you. She was a nurse. You didn't even listen to her. You, they thought they had said she had Munchausen's by proxy. Now, the defense put on an expert by the name of Eli Neuberger. This guy is like world famous pediatrician, Eli Neuberger. He charges so much money that, of course, he did not appear by in person. It would have cost the defense a lot of money to have this guy appear by in person. I mean, I think they deposed him twice, so three times. Twice it was not on video, once it was on video. So what they did in the court was they had Mr. Anderson, who's the lead the lead plaintiff attorney. He sat on the witness stand and he played Eli Neuberger. That was his part. And then he had one of his associates read the lawyer part of the deposition. And so they read it. And so, and then later on, they did show not a live, but they did show the video deposition. So the three depositions. So they read the first two and then they video. But this Eli Neuberger, um, he is not per se he's not, um, what do you want to say, a child abuse pediatrician, because he was the founder of the organization of child abuse. Anyway, he sat on the committee that decided, is this going to be a specialty or not? And what do we want to call this specialty? And he was not in favor of calling it a child abuse um, pediatrician. He just did not want that. But anyway, so once it became a specialty, he decided not to take the test. He was emeritus, is where they just say, okay, That's you're part of us. You don't have to take the test because you came up with the specialty. He just didn't like what it was called, and he did not like Sally Smith. He reviewed he reviewed everything in this case, all the treating physicians, all the care that went down at John Hopkins Children's Hospital for 87 days of Maya Kowalski for CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome. And he was very, very critical of Sally Smith. He said she should have distinguished herself from the rest of the hospital staff, or that said, I'm not a member of the hospital staff. He said just by her putting on that lab coat, walking into the room, she has now become an agent of that hospital. And he said she was the pilot of this admission. She was running the show. If she made a suggestion, they would follow through with it. I mean, so he said she, in essence, was a treating physician. Now, she just said, no, by no means was I a treating physician. Yet she would email the treating physicians and say, here's a suggestion, and they would follow it. That, and so this doctor said, she, and not only that, but she fell below the standard of care because he said Munchausen's by proxy is kind of like a sort of a dumping ground. If you can't figure out what else is wrong with them, it's probably Munchausen's by proxy. And the fact that she alleged that the daughter was in on it, he says, is just ridiculous. There is such a thing as CRPS. Sally Smith should have had that as at least a diagnosis of exclusion and tried to figure out, does she have this? Instead of trying to figure out if she has Munchausen's, let's rule out the CRPS first. So he was very, very critical. So that was essential for the jury to hear what this guy had to say. So after all this is said and done, the jury goes to lunch and then they come back and they give the judge a note. here, I'm going to play this for you because it's just so funny. Hopefully I can find it real quick. So here is what happened in the courtroom. Maybe it's not funny to you, but to me it was funny because you rarely see the personality of a jury come out like that, and they wanted their joke read in open court. I just I thought it was funny. I really did. They're taking it seriously, but they're just, everybody's trying to keep a little levity to the boringness that this is. Okay, so first they put Kyle on the stand to show damages, and he talked about the loss of his mom and how it has affected him. He says he doesn't. The only activity he does is fishing. He says that fishing is my outlet, and he doesn't play in any sports he's homeschooled. He's just kind of a loner. He won't go in the garage anymore because that's she was found in the garage. Um, again, this is a young kid. He's by now, I think he's 14 or 15 years old. Just got a haircut. But he talked about how, he doesn't have his mom's Polish cooking anymore. He's lost what little bit of the language he was learning. One of the things that they really, really enjoyed doing as a family is going in the pool. They don't go in the pool anymore because, Beata was the life of the pool, I guess. But just as his earlier testimony, it felt to me very rehearsed. Either that or this kid is just very, very mature, which could be. I expect that he had a lot of growing up that he did once his mom committed suicide. So sad. Then they put Jack on the stand. And one of the questions that I had and that he did answer was, "Why haven't you moved out of this house? Why are you still in this house? We know you got money from Netflix," and nobody asked him that. I thought for sure that the defense was going to ask him, "Hey, how much money did you get from Netflix?" Well, first of all, objection, relevancy. It's not relevant. But I would love to have known. And I tried to look it up and I didn't see it. But And anyway, he said the reason they didn't leave and move out of that house is because the kids grew up in that neighborhood. They knew all their friends were there. He says but they just lost their mom. He wasn't going to have them lose all their friends too. So they have stayed in the house. They used to pull up in the driveway and go in the house through the garage. They don't anymore. They would pull in, use the garage door opener, open the garage, go in the house that way. Now they just go through the front door. They have as little to do with that garage as possible. Um, I think it was at this point that I kind of started crying because I thought, how horrible. I just what he said was moms. I'm going to cry again. Moms don't punch out the clock. Beata was, she worked full time. She cooked for the family. She taught the kids Polish. She helped them with their homework. It left a huge hole in this family when she committed suicide. And suicide is, yes, it's a very selfish act, but you have to remember this woman's perspective. She grew up in communist Poland. She watched her father get arrested and dragged off by the government. And now she goes to the US and the government has taken away her child. She doesn't see any other way out of this. Um, the other thing they talked about was the Skyway Bridge. Now, if you've ever been to Tampa or St. Petersburg, or there's at least three major bridges that go from the mainland Tampa over to St. Petersburg. And the closest way to get to St. Petersburg is to take the Skyway Bridge, because that's the first major bridge you come to. And then there's a couple of other ones. And it's, for some reason, they say every time they go over this bridge, especially Maya, whenever she goes over this bridge, her thoughts are, oh my God, am I going back to this hospital? Because that's how they would go to the hospital. Um, so they don't go over that Skyway Bridge anymore. A lot of people don't go over that bridge because it is scary as hell. It is such a scary bridge, and it's it has these signs like heavy winds, you have to slow down, and there's cops on either side of the bridge to prevent jumpers. It is a scary bridge, and it's long. I like it. I love that bridge. I think it's cool as hell. But like my sister and brother, nope, they will just keep driving up I-75 and take the next bridge, which is much longer. It's like going around your elbow to get to your nose, but uh, people don't like the Skyway Bridge. Um, so they did a lot of DoorDash. There, he said at one point I had COVID. The kids learned to live on DoorDash during the time he had COVID. And he says one time that he was looking through the receipts, they had ordered licorice. DoorDash delivered licorice to the house. I thought that was kind of funny. Okay, so Maya took stand, and I have not watched that yet. To talk about her damages, and I want to give that my full attention today and make sure I cover it well for you tomorrow. So we're going to go over to the David Tronies case, which so much like the Cara Rentala case, like I said before. So the first witness that they put on was the 911 operator. She identified, she has to authenticate, yes, that's my voice on the thing, and this is, whatever. So they played the 911 tape. And this guy is boo-hooing like you would know, like a 2-year-old. Like, ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo. And then she'd ask him a question, and he'd be like, okay, here's the address. Then he'd go back to boo, hoo, hoo, hoo. Like, oh, this is weird. So I listened carefully. He told the 911 operator he was walking up the stairs. He thought he heard her in the shower, and he went in and found her in the bathtub. So she's like, okay, they're on the way. I'm gonna have someone talk you through CPR. Is she still in the tub? He's like, no, I got her out of the tub. So she's trying to teach him how to do CPR, and he's boo-hooing. So Then the next person on the stand was the an Orlando police officer. Not anymore. He does something else now, but at the time he was an Orlando police officer. He was the first one to arrive on the scene, and as he's well, the first police officer to arrive on the scene. Paramedics were there when he got there, and he said as he's walking into the house, he looked at them and they went, like because he's like, you know, and they're like, no. In other words, you can go save her. She's dead. So he saw her. She was in rigor. He says clearly rigor. Her limbs were like just like in Carolyn Telecase. Her limbs were like this. And you can't move them. It's, and he felt like what he was seeing from David Tronies was an exaggerated level of distress. There were no tears coming out of that man's eyes, even though he was boo-hooing. Then when he saw the body, he noted that she had abrasions on her knees from like a really bad rug burn and very little blood. So he could see that she had blunt force trauma to the head and face as well. And then around her neck, he could see pressure marks, like she had been strangled. And he got the whole thing out before somebody objected. Then he said her hair appeared wet, but her clothing was not wet. Now, he admits he didn't go up and touch her because he's the first officer on the scene. She's dead. You got to wait for the investigators now. So someone said, if the clothes were damp, would you go with that person's testimony? He said, oh yeah, I didn't touch the clothes, but they didn't look soaked in water. Her hair did, but not the rest of her. And then he felt like he had gotten two different accounts of what happened. The first one was that David had found her in the tub and pulled her out to do CPR. That's the one he went with 911. The next version was that he found her on the floor, but she was like her knees were on the floor, but she was face down in the tub with the water running. What? Okay. Honey, that makes no sense. Okay, whatever. Then we hear from the paramedic, and he said she was clearly dead when he walked in. Rigor mortis. Um, Clothes, he said, were not wet. They were damp, but they were not wet. He said, but her body was wet. But she had no pulse. So then he attached her to some leads, EKG leads, and she was pulseless electrical activity, is what they saw, which is flatline. Flatline. So she'd been dead for a little bit of time. Then the next person on the stand was, they were like boom, 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 boom with the witnesses until we get to the crime scene investigator. So the dental assistant takes the stand next. She said that the day before her body is found, she had made an emergency appointment for 10 o'clock on the morning of November 24th. So they put all the emergency appointments at 10. So at 10 o'clock on the 24th, 10 o'clock came and went. No sign of her. What is her name? I have her name here somewhere. Shanti Cooper Tronis. So Shanti doesn't show up, and they don't call. She says if an emergency cancels, we don't follow up with them. Yeah, they just figure, okay, whatever it was, it just resolved. So then they put the crime scene investigator on the stand, and I was really anxious. You guys know I wanted to see the house. Well, they weren't showing any of the photos. None. Like, here's the side door, here's the front door. Why can't we see those? Didn't show it. Maybe one picture of the house, and it's kind of a Victorian style home. Yeah, but they weren't showing photographs of the house. I don't know why. And I'm still trying to figure out how old this child was that she had living in the house. but it seemed to me like very, very young, like infant young. Um, so anyway, so that is the first day. And now I have not listened to the second day, so I have to catch up. Today's day 3. The prosecution is still putting on their case because they've still got to get the medical examiner on the stand. They've got to show the interrogation footage. So I will be bringing you all of that information. All right. What else? What else? What else? I think that's it. Oh my gosh. I just had a busy weekend. I really did. And last night, I apologize. It was a game night. 7:30 came and went, and we had lost power earlier in the day. And whenever you lose power with my computer, just like, it's, we got to do our updates because I'm terrible with keeping up with the updates. And at 8 o'clock last night, it was still updating. So I'm going to do game night tonight, Monday night. We're going to have a game night tonight. So that'll be at 7:30 Central. I hope to see you there. And we just get together and have a little fun. And, I play a little bit on my Switch. Yeah, it's fun. So that is the show for today. I hope to see you tonight at game night or tomorrow on Crafting and Crime Daily or Tuesday. A lot to get to. Yes, I got a lot to sit and listen to. And I hope you have a great day, everybody. Don't forget, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.